Okay, I think we are good to start. So, yeah, good morning, everyone. I hope we're clear. Before we start, I would like to let you know that you can, feel free to put any questions in the Q&A section or in the chat box during the webinar. We will answer them towards the end if time permits. And just before we start, I wanted to give a quick introduction who we are. So, our company name is Trinexia. We are a pan-EMEA specialty value-added distributor, a leader in cybersecurity and digital forensic space. We serve both public, government, and private sector enterprises through our channel partners and our vendors. And today we are excited to collaborate with one of our newest vendors, which is called Concentric AI. Yeah, you heard that right. Concentric AI is an semantic intelligence, SaaS-based data security posture management company, which utilizes deep machine learning to automatically discover your data and classify sensitive data, identify risk, and remediate issues. Basically, it helps you begin your data security journey. So it is an agentless connectivity. It provides agentless connectivity to wide variety of data repositories, so you can govern access to your data wherever it resides, even in on your for both structured, unstructured, on premise or on the cloud. So especially it can integrate with the popular data classification frameworks like Microsoft, MIP, Microsoft Information Protection. So we can enjoy better coverage, more accurate classification throughout your security stack. So on behalf of Concentric AI, we have Pankaj Gupta and Giancarlo Vargas. Pankaj is a leading customer success team at Concentric AI and brings over 24 years of experience in bringing value to driving value for their products in data security, IoT, manufacturing. He has built this diverse skills in customer success, R&D, while working with organizations like Symphony AI, General Electric, Astrom Power, and some other companies. So, and he also enjoys building and mentoring his teams, especially on the AI stack. And here's Giancarlo Vargas. She's an account executive with 5 years experience in Concentric AI and on the data security space. So she's dedicated to building relationships, helping customers, contextually understand their data, especially across Middle East and African region. So I would like to end this and hand over this to our team and take it forward. Thank you, everyone. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Razeen. Happy to be here. I appreciate everyone joining. We have a few hot topics that we want to discuss that are top of mind for everyone dealing with legacy problems, right? Talking about DLP governance. We're going to be talking a lot about why Concentric AI, our approach, right? How we're doing things a little bit different, what it means to secure data, right? And not just sensitive data, right? Because it's not solely just about PCI, PII types of data. It's about business critical data, right? And how that has evolved and why it's important to secure different things in different environments, right? It's become the Wild West when you're talking about unstructured data. So we'll be discussing a couple points around that. I have Pankaj, who, like Razeen mentioned, has experience day-to-day working with customers hand by hand in this journey to essentially help customers deliver and operationalize data discovery, right? And we're talking about data classification, data discovery, categorization, which is something unique that we do that I'll get into. I'll take a couple minutes to set the scene on what you'll be seeing in the demo that Pankaj will be talking through, a couple of the use cases, how we're helping customers day to day address some security concerns, not only from a data loss perspective, but from a compliance perspective, a privacy perspective, making sure that regulations are being met, making sure that we're delivering accurate discovery and operationalizing the whole journey, right? So to start there, Concentric AI is a managed DSPM solution, right? So Pankaj's goal is to help deliver this without very little customer interaction, right? And what I mean by that is our technology is doing a lot of the work, out of the box capabilities, right? We have a lot of challenges that come with having data spread out, right? You're talking about terabytes of data. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's not an easy journey, right? We understand that data discovery, answering those questions of what types of data do I have out there, who has access to it, where is this data living, right, is very tough to answer. So our goal is to help do that without having you to build anything, without having to go through manual efforts, without having to pretty much build regular expressions or anything like that, right? This is kind of what we're seeing, right? You want to make sure that you're protecting data as it grows. Data loss is pretty expensive, right? So we'll address how we're enabling and enhancing DLP. Data is everywhere. We'll cover what repositories we have. Concentric AI can give you a centralized location of all of these different types of repositories. We have about over 51 integrations that we'll connect with, whether that's on-prem and in the cloud or databases, right? So structured and unstructured data is equally important. You'll have a single UI to go through this and make sure you're getting all the information you need without having to switch dashboards or anything like that. And this is a huge value piece, right? Because when you're looking at what's out there, you want to make sure that you don't have one tool for just the cloud or one tool for on-prem, right? You want everything to talk together and have that centralized location to find these things. Last thing I'll show here is where we fit, right? Everyone talks about data loss prevention. It's a big topic, but it's not easy, right? There's a challenge that comes with it because you're always dealing with false negatives, false positives. Things are being missed or things are being caught too much, right? Because then you have a lot of things that are meeting certain patterns and rules, and you're overwhelmed with a lot of alerts that you have to sift through. What we're doing is offloading a lot of the manual efforts and a lot of the discovery aspect, right? So where we come in is the first three layers. We're going to support effective discovery, and I say effective, right, because everyone can do discovery. But when you're looking at it from a data perspective, again, you don't necessarily just care about PCI PII. We have customers that care about patent information, right? We have customers that have source code, that have business critical information, board meeting notes outside of those privacy identifiers that are very hard to identify if you're just looking at it from a regular expression perspective, right? You don't want to just rely on patterns and rules because it's very difficult to identify this information. And it's just as equally as important, right? So from there, we're going to categorize your data, and Pankaj will show you what that looks like. Legal, HR, you'll have operations, sales, right? You'll have a good contextual view of your data, which is our unique approach. We're doing this different. This is how we're using our patent technology to essentially help out of the box categorize your data, right? So you can have a better view. And then from there, start applying the labeling, whether that's through Microsoft Purview, Google, Box, you name it, right? Whatever labeling system you have in place, we'll leverage that investment that you already made to automate that process, because we know that relying on users isn't always the most effective path, right? And then we're talking about remediation. We're not just going to quantify that risk for you and let you deal with it. We're talking about taking action, right? Let's push permissions without having to leave the dashboard. We're talking about creating policies.
Pankaj, can you hear Jan?
No, it looks like somehow we lost connection. I'm just dropping her a message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Jan got stuck in somewhere.
Uh, Pankaj, do you want to take over from you?
Yes, yes,
Jan-
yes,
I think
yes.
it's better.
Yeah. So I think Jen mostly covered an overview of what we are doing. And let's dive in now on the real product, and I'll show you like what she meant. And we'll walk through complete product that will give you little idea like how we are really doing all these things which Jen just mentioned. I'll share my screen and let me know. So do you see it? Do you see it? Jen?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the data security journey, which Mohammed was talking about at the start. So for any infosec leader team, the data security journey starts with three fundamental questions. One is, what's my data? What I have in my environment. Second, where it is. And third, who has access to it? And these are three fundamental questions, with which you always start your risk assessment or your remediation journey. Or so concentric. So let's discuss first on the what is my data. Now you heard already, and I think the most conventional approach to know about what is my data is using this regex patterns or rules. And the regex patterns and rules have their own limitations. The regex are not very accurate. Rules are very complex to set up and often false positive return. And here Concentric came with a unique approach. And we are using now large language models, LLM. You might have heard ChatGPT uses that. And we are one of the first patent holder. We applied for a patent almost 6 years back, probably when people started just talking about it, for using these LLM AI models for data security. And what we do with this. So the detection of what data you have, instead of doing it using regex, our AI models, they look at your documents, they look at the content, and based on the content of the document, they can extract its context. And from there, they can recognize what a particular document is. So they can recognize if the document is a legal document or it is a HR document. Currently, our models are trained on more than 1,200 type of corporate data. So that means they can recognize that much corporate data. And you can see what we can recognize is almost all major categories of data you find in your environment. That's the legal data, insurance data, HR, finance, operations, sales, personal documents, product related data. And these are the major categories that you can see the granularity with which we can identify the data. So we, if you're just looking at the legal agreement, these are just some of the few categories, but there are a lot more categories, subcategories here. But you can see the granularity. We can differentiate between services agreement and technology license agreement, stock agreements, NDAs, purchase agreements, and so on. If I go on some other categories, let's look at HR, we can identify what are immigration document, offer letters, pay stubs, background check. So what we're doing here, I'll just double click on this part, how we are doing it. So our models, the AI models, they look at your document, they look at the content, and from that content, they basically create a AI fingerprint. We call it AI fingerprint. It is basically an array of some 500 numbers, and this number represent the document, and this is an irreversible pattern. So that means we can no one can basically extract any information about the document from that pattern, but the pattern is actually good representation of your data of the document. So basically we are not storing your document or any data uh, from your environment. It's just the AI fingerprint which we are extracting from the document, and this AI fingerprint is used for doing all the analysis on Concentric platform. Now, this categories, as I said, you can see like this pane, this category view, it offers you a single pane for all your data sources. So your data may be lying in your on-prem, on your cloud, or any other storage which you are using on your S3, wherever it is, but you can see everything here on the single pane. So that means I'm clicking here from the offer letter. So you will see all the offer letter exist across your data storages, and you can see all of them here in one place. So I'll say this is the currently in industry most precise view of your data. It is not using any rejects pattern, any name, any path. This categorization is based on the content of the data, and that will basically makes it the most precise representation of your documents. And it will give you most detailed view of type and categories of the document. If you use rejects pattern generally will tell you all the document that contain, let's say, a credit card number or a name, or but it will not able to say that those name belongs to a legal department, or it's a legal data, or it's HR data, or what. But here we can differentiate between that. So this is the what part, where Concentric have a unique approach, and it basically form the core of our product. The next thing come is after the what, like where is this data? So for example, let's say we are interested in legal data, just service agreements. Where my the service agreements are located? So Concentric then give you complete mapping of all this service agreement. Now you can focus only on this set of the data. You need not to like look at everything in the legal department and so, and you can come here and it will show you where this all legal agreements are stored. You can dig into the lowest level directory path, and that will tell you like if this data is placed in some wrong location. So for example, if it's a business sensitive data, which should be part of which should be with legal group, but it is placed in some common directory, you can do those identification by doing this location analysis. Then comes the third question, that is who has access to this data. So again, we can choose any category which we want to focus. You need not to look at everything. So for example, let's say here, if you say this purchase agreement or something that's of interest to me, you can come here and it will give you, or platform will give you a summary view of where all these purchase agreements are shared. So you can see here, like there are few external users with which some of the 16 documents are shared. Then there are some groups with whom this data is shared, and internal users. And let's say you also want to get an answer like who owns this document. So you can also look at like these are 3 owners who own this 16 document. This guy owns 8 and this user 6 and so on. So this is basically, this answers, I'll say, your basic fundamental questions on data security. Where is my data? What data I have? Who has access to it? And it kind of put you in a very strong foundation to start your remediation, cleanup, or protection via classification. Now, another part in the data discovery, this is one view. I will just show you a few more capabilities on the data discovery side. So let's say you want to look at your whole data, but objective is just to find the data that is shared outside the company. So let's say your company policy says nothing should be shared on personal emails. You can simply click here, and this is sharing category, and it shows like out of the 1,000 document which we are seeing, the 74 documents are the one that are shared outside the organization. And again, you can do the dig in, like with which email these documents are shared and where they are stored, and what are these documents. You can just look at the list of the documents as well, and you can take export from the platform for or report on these documents, which will help you in taking, presenting to the management or taking further actions. Another thing, maybe you would like to look at what out of this all the data, how many data has PI. So again, the filtering capability, it will tell you like these are 2,800 files in your environment which has PI. We can further dig down and say, okay, I want to see only those files which has, let's say, credit card number. So click here. It adds one more filter, and now you know, like these are 42 files in your environment that has credit card. And you can look at the file as well. Like when I say look at the file, means some of the file metadata. So I just opened a file here. So it will give you complete detail about this particular file. There you were looking at the data in summarize view, like all the documents together. But here you are digging into one specific document. It tells you what's the document name. It also tell you how this document is moving in your environment. So this document you see here was created first on this date by this user at this storage. Then it was copied here, and then from here it was sent by email by this user, and this was basically the last copy of the document. And if you come down here, it will show you what kind of PI it has. It has got one credit card number, so you can also look at this PI. These are masked naturally, but that way it gives you a strong, like a strong tool to analyze, dig deeper as much as you want, and find out where your sensitive information is stored. After PI, there are other things you can see, like if you want to focus on particular location, you can choose that, like just for SMB, SharePoint, any account you want to look at, you can just put it in filter and it will show you the data just related to that account. Another thing, interesting thing when you are doing the data discovery is finding the duplicates in your environment. So every company has a lot of duplicate. User create the duplicate, they never clean those up. And if you want to look at it, our platform detects all the duplicates you have in your environment, and it will give you, like I'm just opening. So this is one group of duplicate. These four files, they are duplicate of each other. You can again look at where these files are stored, who owns these files, and who has access to these. So again, a strong duplicate analysis. There's another thing which goes here for this duplicacy. In organizations, there are generally users sometimes create many versions of a document. So these documents are very similar to each other, almost 98-99% similar to each other, but still they are stored differently. So we call them near duplicate. So the AI power enable us to also identify the near duplicates in your environment. And again, we can filter it out, like see there's 29 documents that are kind of near duplicates, and these can be various different versions of the same document. So these are basically the data discovery capabilities. Then AI-based recognition of the documents, very precise, very powerful, highly granular, and it will allow you to get all necessary information you need to start your data security journey. After this, once you have identified where my data is, location, and all the necessary detail, the next thing you would like to do generally is look how to clean those up. So let's say you have identified there are some risk, like some data is shared on personal emails, and you want to clean it up. And so then platform provide you lot of capabilities to take different remediation action, and starts with, so when I say it start with, like it start with setting up your criteria. So platform gives you capability to set up various rules as you like. So the rules means you can say, let's say this category equal to legal. So I'm focusing on legal data. Then I'm focusing on purchase agreement. And then the next requirement I want to set is if anything is shared outside my company. So let's say externally shared. Now, this rule is set on the platform and you can create a policy. The policy will basically save this rule and then you can take different actions. So what actions you can take? First is just monitoring. You can say, I want to monitor this particular condition. How many files are meeting this criteria? So you can set just a risk level here, high, low, or medium, like based on sensitivity of this rule you want to assign. And once you do it, you will see a tile getting created here on the dashboard. That's your landing page, and like legal, and shared. Actually, this is what rule kind we are talking about. And it will give you a real-time status of any file that's meeting these rules. Right now, 15 files are hitting this rule. And you will also be able to see the trend if this trend is going up or down with the time. But this will be your landing page. Whenever you log into the platform, you come here and you will see like this is something which you need to monitor. Another action is, let's say after monitoring, you want to go to the next level. Next level can be sending a notification to your users. So you can start sending some notification, and the notification can send me directly to the data owners, because data owner in the cloud world has all the power to share the data or stop the sharing, remove the sharing. So you can send a report, send a notification to data owner, like, and or email can be drafted as you decide, but it can have a message like, hey guys, there are these 3 legal files that you are sharing outside the organization that is not allowed as per policy, and each file owner will receive a report, and he will receive in the report only the files that he owns. You can also choose that to get a report for yourself as admin, and there you will get a summarized report of all the files that are basically meeting this criteria of this policy. So this is basically a monitoring, a user educatory tool here, which you can use sending the notification, or it can only be for you for monitoring. Another actions, let's say after sending notification, educating user, and you decide that you want to clean those permissions. You don't want to allow your users to share the data outside the company. Now, the platform has also capability to control this, to the clean up this. And you can see here for every type of sharing, whether it's internal sharing, group sharing, or external sharing. And in external sharing, again, you can go to personal sharing. You can set up a rule here saying that you don't want to allow it. So it will say for external user, deny any personal sharing. And if we create the policy, a platform can go and clean up all these permissions itself. And I can just cite some example here. We had one of our customer who was in technology domain. They were pretty early mover to the cloud. So they moved their data to cloud very early, maybe I think a decade below, when the cloud was probably just starting. And the control were not good in that time. And when we onboarded them, we found almost 10% of their data was shared on personal emails by their users. When I say personal email, the link sharing was done. So because the organization did not have any policy related to controlling the personal sharing of data from the cloud, and 10% data leakage for a technology organization was very, very huge, and we cleaned it up. There was a huge number of files we cleaned up using our platform, because manually there were thousands of users who have shared this data. The files were across all the locations. Manually, no effort could have cleaned them up. But from the platform, it was very easy. We just created a policy to clean up all the permission sharing, and the platform cleaned up all those permissions. Again, one more action that can be like in on-prem environment, we have seen this risk often that users are given access to specific directory to do their work, but when they want to collaborate, they sometimes move sensitive data to the directories that are, let's say, common directories accessible to large group of users in the environment, and they move the data to those directories and then use those directories to collaborate. But after the collaboration finishes, they forget to clean up the data, remove the data. And as we said, like when you look at the directory structure where the data is located, and if you realize that some of the data is sitting at wrong place, you can use platform to again do operation on the data directly. So that means you can move the file, you can delete the file, you can copy the file, and this you can do across the data sources from the platform. So you can clean up those risky sharing. This operation is also useful when you are applying some data retention use case where you want to archive your data that is older than some 10 years, 7 year, whatever time limit you have. So you can easily map, let's say you can say the legal data should not be more than, you don't want to keep legal data that is older than 10 years. So pretty simple on the platform, you choose legal data, you say the files that are created, created at or before to some time period, let's say 5 year, 10 year, and yeah, then it will, okay, this data set is new, so we don't see this, but okay, I can just make it 1 year. Yeah, and it shows you all the files that are older than 1 year, and then you can decide to move it, archive it using the platform. Another important action is the classification deployment. Mohammed talked about that we can integrate well with MIP. So yes, with MIP as well as other data sources, for example, Google, Dropbox, Box. So there are quite a few data sources we support where we can where we can deploy classification. Now for classification, we use again I'll say a unique approach. If you are using any standard classification method, including Microsoft Purview, they all rely on the regex. And if you first thing for any classification program is to identify what is the sensitive file and what is the sensitivity label, because when you're talking about classification, there are different sensitivities level of the file. So file may be highly confidential, file may be confidential, internal, public, or so on. Now, first thing is you need to identify among your big data sets, which are the file which will fit for restricted or confidential or internal sensitivity label. Now, all standard DLP tools who support recognition of sensitivity of the data, like Purview, they use regex. And regex is always based on their standard regex patterns are only for PI. But what if you want to protect also your financial report company's financial report is also a sensitive data, or your product technology document is also sensitive data, that's your IP. So they don't have any regex pattern to detect it. And regex is, again, as I said initially, it's error prone. So what Concentric offer here, now the type of data you have, these are all my purchase agreement, these are my investment agreement. Now you can decide what classification label you want to give to purchase agreements. Say you want to put a label of confidential here. Investment agreement, you want to make them highly confidential. NDAs or end user license, maybe internal or public. So you see how easy it become now, because now you know the document, what document it is. And if you know about the document, you can always go to the data owner, let's say the legal department or finance department, say, okay, what label you want to put for purchase agreement, and it will be easy to get answer rather than telling them, okay, if the document contain an email address, PI, or what should be the classification label. So on Concentric, this is the first thing that is made easy for classification label. So you can map the classification label based on the data category. And the platform can integrate well with your MIP. So once you have created the labels in MIP, platform will pull those labels automatically. You need not to do anything on platform especially. Create your labels in your MIP. We will pull those labels, whatever labels are published. Those labels can be mapped to these categories using a rule, creating the rule policy like just you saw. And once the rules are created, we can push the classification label to these files. Again, irrespective of their location, wherever they are, we can push the classification label to these files. So just imagine, like, if you, for bootstrapping the classification, you have to classify your existing data sets. And that will be almost impossible if you ask users to do it. If you use regex pattern or like existing capabilities of Purview or any other standard tool, they will cover only half of your data that have PI. They will not cover probably the data that doesn't have PI. Or you will need to set up rule yourself, and that will be a complex thing. Here, you can just look at the category, what kind of data that this category contain, map the label, and push it from the Concentric platform directly to your environment. The files will have the label. User will start seeing the label. And as I say, the platform is fully integrated with Purview. So we will not only push the label one time, but as the users are changing the label, we will see those changes here. If some user changes the label, and if a new file is created and user either do not apply the label or he mislabel the file, we can detect that mislabel and we can then correct it from the platform. Let's say purchase agreement, user has made it public. We will detect that purchase agreement should be a confidential document, and we have a classification mismatch. It will say misclassification recommendation. It will say, okay, the document should be classified as confidential, but actually it is public. And platform will, if you choose, there's the option like if you choose to overwrite, we will overwrite that label, make it confidential. So whole classification program is one of the most successful program. We are doing it with with all of our customer, and it has made classification pretty easy. And we have done on huge data sets, petabytes of data sets. Another use case which I would like to mention, and then maybe I need to stop for question answers. So the data age we talked about. So we can map your data based on its age. And if you have retention program, the retention program can be deployed using the platform. As I said, like you can filter out your data based on either when the data was created or even based on when the file was last touched. And so that means basically based on last modified date of the file. And then we can do the rules again, because the retention also is different. Generally retention period is different for different kind of document. So here you can again map individual retention period to the category and then take the action according to the retention period for that particular category. Beside this, I think I covered most of things probably which are of concern when it comes to data security. Couple of more things. We also support the SQL data. So you can see the SQL data is again similar principle, irrespective of the where the data stays on the database, data servers, sorry, wherever whatever data servers are or tables are. It will again show you everything in single window, single pane. It will say like these are personal PI. You click on here and it will tell you like where in your all the databases date of birth exists. it will also, and then again, you can look at the permissions, who are user roles which has access to this this particular PI. Again, a lot of filters. I'll not go in detail of everything, but a lot of filters to look at the data, again, toward the data discovery. Also, we support applying the classification labels, especially on Snowflake, on structured data as well. And the last thing is the users. So here you have a view of all your users. So you can use this view again to look at how many groups you have in the environment, users. You can do analysis if there are some users or apps who has access to your document, which they should not. So, and this is basically pulling the data from your AD. So we'll also put users. We can map users as per their departments, their managers, and so on. So with that, I'll stop here. And yeah, one more thing I would like to cover. I know we are basically a cloud SaaS deployment. We are hosted in AWS cloud, and that makes us very flexible in terms of deployment. So first thing, we don't keep any of your data. The data is just AI fingerprint is extracted from the data, and that is the only information we keep on the platform. And the files metadata, basically that permission, owner, and when the file was created. And being the SaaS-based platform, it makes us very easy to deploy it at multiple locations. So right now we have deployed in US, couple of locations. We are deployed in Europe, and if requirement come, it can be deployed in Middle East as well. So all the operations related to your data remains in your zone. I think
I think there's a couple questions.
Yes.
Pankaj, I can share them with you and read them out loud if that's easiest.
Sure.
I know Anoop had a couple questions around how we license our solution, so I can quickly answer that. So it's per terabyte. It's simple, it's straightforward. It's not how many users you have. It's just how many aggregate terabytes of data do you have across your environment, whether that's in the cloud or on-prem. For databases, we will license by database servers, but pretty straightforward. And the add-on, there's no add-ons unless you're looking to do any language translation. Outside of that, it's straightforward. There was another question around, do you provide compliance report based on identification and classification? For example, for PCI, GDPR, etc.
Sorry, can you ask the question again, Jen?
Yes, the question is, do you provide compliance report based on identification and classification for PCI,
Yes.
GDPR?
Yes, we do. And if I show you here, we have okay. Let me show you here. Sorry. Oh, sorry, pushed me out. So what you can do, so for Compliance Center, we have, for example, let's say GDPR. I'm just taking a most common example. So we have direct rules set up in our platform, which will identify all the data that is GDPR sensitive, and then it will also identify the violations. And you can extract it, and you can set up the report. It will send you, like, as I initially mentioned, a admin report, which will give you information about what all the data is out of compliance of that particular location, but of that particular regulation. Or it can also, send the report to your data owner directly, giving them that information. So answer is yes. And it's not only GDPR, any regulation, even if, right, let's say it is not covered as a standard regulation on our platform. If there's a new regulation, it can be easily set up on the platform because you need to just know like what kind of data this particular regulation will cover. And based on these categories, we can immediately filter it out and create a rule for you. And then you can also set up the rules which basically cause violation of that regulation and set up the reports for you. Like reports can be triggered every day, every week, or every month at whatever frequency you like.
Awesome. Thank you, Pankaj. Another question is there a way to provide a birth access to data based on his role and responsibilities, I'm assuming, and we can revoke the access once the employee is promoted or moved to other departments?
Yes. So we provide role-based access control. So that means you can provide a user access to the platform. And when he log into the platform, he will able to see only his data. He'll not see any other thing. And this role-based access stand at different levels. So it can be at user level, it can be at manager. Manager means he will see data of his own as well as for his team. And then department level and then admin level. And then there are also a security role, which will allow security to look at particular users activity. Not at the data, but activity, and then admin role who can look at everything. And then there is also a read-on role, read-only role, where you can just look at the data, but you cannot take any action from the platform. So there are quite a few RBAC roles are available.
Thank you. There is another question around calculation of the risk for each file. So what is the category that you will classify the data that is generated by the system? I'm not sure if I understand that question, but let me know. Pankaj.
Yeah, no, I'm also not clear. When you say risk calculation, can you be a little more descriptive here?
Yeah, Jamal, that would be great to get a little bit more context on that one. Is there any on-prem deployments as well or integrations available with Bold and James or Get Visibility?
Yes. So for your on-prem servers, we install a small agent, very light agent, and this agent was it's basically you proxy, and that helps us to connect to your data on server. And this need not to be installed on every server. It need to be installed at one place from where we can access all your data.
Perfect, thank you. And in regards to the integration with Bold and James or Get Visibility, will we be able to integrate with Bold and James?
Pardon, what was that? What was
Bold
the name
and
of data?
James, I think that's the classification tool, Bold and James.
Bold and James. Okay. I've not heard about it. Is it a classification tool or it's a data source?
Yeah, I believe it's a tool that labels, but we'll double check. And Get Visibility, I'm familiar with them. They do a little bit. They're in the data discovery and classification space, but they have a different approach. So it depends what we're looking to do with Get Visibility. Are we looking to push data, pull data? It would really depend on what you're looking to do. But a lot of our integrations are based on API connections, right? If they're looking to connect with us, if there's any conversations we can have with their technical team, we'll have those. But it really would depend on the use case that you're looking to meet. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
and,
data classification.
and if it is like any DLP platform that uses the labels on the file, then we can push the label on the file, and then this DLP tool can use those labels to apply the DLP policies.
Jamal just clarified with the question, so we'll go over that really quick. So meaning the files that are generated systems like .text files, .bat as logs. So I think the question here is, what is the category that we will classify the data that is generated by the system, and can you calculate the risk for each files or any executable files? So I think the question is, for documents that have like a text file or a BAT log file, are we able to calculate the risk for each files?
Yes. So any file that has text in it and the text is representing some context, we'll able to categorize it automatically out of box. Then there may be when you talk about log system generated files, there can be possibility where the file is generating a text which does not have context on which our models are already trained. Now, in that case, what will happen? Our AI will still work. It will look at those files. It will group all those files, all those similar files together. And then it will give, instead of giving them a name of category, it will give them a number because it doesn't know what should be the name of the category. So it will put a number on that. But still the files, all the similar files will be put together. And what we'll do in that case, we'll come back to you. We'll ask you like this is the group of file, which is, let's say, logs or text. And if you can advise us what should be name that, then you give us the name. We pick up few files from that, like, or you can give us you can recognize some of the files. Tell us these are 10 files I recognize, and they should be, let's say, X, Y, Z. We will use those 10 files to train our model, and then the model will work and it will find all the files, similar file in your environment, and put them in that particular category which you have defined. So the answer is, if there is some data that is not being automatically categorized by system, our models can be trained on your data itself using your data to categorize that particular set of data.
Awesome. Thank you. Anoop, you had a couple questions, so we'll go through those really quick. The kind of authority we need to run this, global admin privileges, excuse me. For cloud, that's really what we need. We're not keeping a copy of your data by any means, so want to emphasize that. I know Pankaj mentioned it already. What kind of integration? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Just one thing on this thing. We don't need any privileges as such, global admin privileges or anything. On the cloud data, you are basically creating a user in your environment that can be generally done by global admin. So using the global admin, you will authenticate our platform to become a user in your environment. And the permissions we ask on your data is like when we are scanning the data for discovering only the read permissions. And when you want to take a action on the data remediation, then we will ask for write permissions. But those permissions but we don't keep any credential or anything from your side on our platform. Even for on-prem, you enter the credential on proxy in your environment, and that are just used to get the basically authentication or access ticket.
Thank you. How do you track internet and email traffic?
Yeah, so we do support Exchange. We treat it as like any other data source. I will just show you here. I think my screen is still shared, right? So one of the data source here you see is Exchange. And again, the data in Exchange is categorized. And you can see here like files, and this was an attachment, and I'm just showing quickly like so this was the attachment. Again, it has categories, and you see here like owner means the sender of the file, and all these users who are whom it was shared are the recipient of the file. It will give you details of like what was the subject of the file, and if the email contained any sensitive data like PII, we'll detect that as well. So same treatment as we are giving to other structured data will be given to email as well. And again, we can take any action as well, like deleting the file or yeah, if you want to do deletion, movement in Exchange is not possible, but yeah, if you want to delete something, we can support that.
Thank you. Thank you. Couple more questions. Do you notify or alert breaches to user and concerned owner of the data? So
Yes,
around
we do.
alerting.
Yes, we do. And in his alert, he will receive details of, let's say, if there is a violation that includes multiple owners. So every owner will receive a mail and each owner will receive only his data. And this can be done just by one rule. And also you can choose to send a copy to his manager. So if his manager is mapped in AD, then a copy will go to his manager as well, if you choose to do so.
Perfect. And then we had an earlier question as well on how we categorize encrypted files, and if we're able to do that. Wanted to go into more detail.
So no, we cannot read encrypted file because we do not have password for those. But if you provide us decrypt key or password, we can decrypt them and read.
Perfect. Thank you. And then we had a couple questions around deployment. Please briefly describe the deployment of the solution.
So deployment is very simple, I'll say in our case. For cloud solution, it's just a 2-minute activity. You need to, we will create an account for you in our environment. We will provide you the URL. You come to the platform, log in, and then for cloud data sources, you need to just authenticate the clouds, authenticate our access using your admin credential, and it is done. And we'll start the scanning. For on-prem data sources, as I said, there will be will need to create a light, very small VM in your environment, and on that VM, we'll install a proxy. And through that proxy, you need to create a service account, which we are going to use to access the data. And then you need to basically authenticate that service account on that proxy. And then you need to onboard your whatever servers you have, and it's done. Generally, it's a 20-25 minute process to onboard SMBs. When I say SMBs, means on-prem servers.
Thank you, Pankaj. And then the last question, is it possible to detect risky users and create categorization of high-risk users?
So we monitor activity on your in your environment. So when I say activity, means we monitor both type of activity. So for example, for any file, what actions are happening on that file, all those things are detected, as well as whatever a user is doing, all those activities are detected. Now coming to defining a risky user, that's I'll say customizable part, how you define a risky user. But what we can do, we can create the alerts based on the activity of the user. So for example, let us say if you want an alert, let's say you are monitoring this specific user, Bob Robert, then you can create an alert that says, okay, whenever this user download more than 10 files, send me alert. So you will get those kind of alert. Or if the user has modified 10 files or deleted 10 files, or any activity he do on the file, you can set up a threshold, and you will get an alert. Generally, it's useful in offboarding use cases when user has resigned and you want to monitor last day's activities. So you can do it. We are not automatically determining who is the risky user, because you can understand it's a challenging problem. It's your criteria which you can define, like how you consider a user risky. But you can, again, let's say, as I said, you can set up a threshold that moment in your organization more than 1,000 files are downloaded, send us alert. So you'll get alert. And we also have this activity analytics. And what does it show? It will basically map what is the average activity level in your environment. And whenever activity happen in your environment that is we call anomaly, means that's unusual, then automatically it will issue an alert for you saying that something unusual is happening in your environment. And based on that, then you can come and dig in further.